I don't know about you, but man, 2025 absolutely flew by for me. I can't believe it's the last day of 2025. I can't believe we're shooting off fireworks tonight. I can't believe just a week ago we were unwrapping Christmas presents. I think as you get older, time starts to go by faster and faster, but maybe it's just me. Let me know if that's also you down below in the comment section. Now today, I want to talk about why I think 2025 sucked for PC gaming. And I don't want to be negative, but let's be honest here. 2025 from a consumer standpoint for PC hardware, tech enthusiasts, and even the gaming industry, it really wasn't that great. You had a couple of wins here and there, but for the most part, it just wasn't that great. And so for the final video of 2025, I want to recap some of the things that happened, and I want to hope and pray that 2026 is better in every way possible. Let me know if there is something that I'm missing in this video, whether if it's good or bad, because I don't think I can remember everything that happened, but I think I'm gonna hit most of the key highlights. Let's get into it. Okay, starting off in January, we had Nvidia with the announcement of the RTX 50 series GPUs, and gamers were excited, but also skeptical, and rightfully so. Once again, Nvidia was talking about DLSS, and now a new addition to frame generation known as multi-frame generation. And now you could do X2, X3, or X4 mode. Jensen made the claim that you could get 4090 performance for $550. Now, in theory and on paper, this sounds awesome, and it's very close to what we actually got with the 30 series cards, because if you remember, the 3070 was $500 MSRP at launch, and it was able to match and sometimes even beat the RTX 2080 Ti, which was the previous generation's flagship, coming in at $1,200. And so you would think that's what they would try to do once again here with the 50 series cards, but in the end, it turned out to be a bunch of marketing BS to the fullest extent.
You sit on a throne of lies.
The 5070 did not match the 4090. It didn't even come close. You had to turn on DLSS and multi-frame generation and set it to the X4 mode to even get in the ballpark of what the 4090 could do natively. Now, in addition to that, the 5070 has half the amount of VRAM as the 4090. The 5070 is not the 4090. It's not matching the 4090. It's not beating the 4090. And it doesn't matter what the price is, because when you start with a claim like that, it's nothing more than a bunch of marketing BS to the fullest extent. And then after that, you have the 5080 coming in at $1,000. Now, here's the thing about it. The 5080 at $1,000 is not the worst thing in the world. It is technically better than the previous generation's egregious $1,200 MSRP on the 4080, but it only matches the 4080 Super's MSRP of $1,000, and it still comes in $300 above the 3080's MSRP of $700. So not really a price reduction there for PC gamers. But again, we all know that AIBs don't really sell these cards at Nvidia's MSRP, because Nvidia doesn't really leave them much to take home at the end of the day. So if they really want to make profit, they have to sell above Nvidia's MSRP. So yeah, 5080s were not coming in at $1,000. They were coming in well above that. And then of course we had tariffs after tariffs on top of more tariffs on top of more tariffs. It really kind of felt like the Oprah show here for PC gamers. You get a tariff, and you get a tariff, and you get a tariff. And so AIBs and Nvidia all took that and said, well, we're not going to eat the cost, so we're just going to pass it on to you, the consumer. So now, $1,000 5080s were going for $1,500, $1,600, $1,800. Which is just crazy. Now, speaking of that price point, you're really close to $2,000, which is the MSRP of the 5090, which again was a GPU that virtually nobody got for MSRP. Are you starting to see the pattern now? Nvidia announces a GPU for a price, but then it's a made up price because you can't really get it for that price. It basically took all year before gamers started to actually be able to get their hands on these cards for the MSRP, not for sale prices, not, $50 off of MSRP, but for the MSRP, because at launch, you really couldn't get the cards. There were very limited quantities available. I remember the lines wrapped around Micro Center of people just sitting there, camping out, waiting in the cold, and most of those people did not get a card. And the people that did get a card really wanted like the 5090. Some of these stores only had like 2 or 3 5090s available, and so most people who got a card got a 5080. And the thing with the 5080, again, not only was it selling for above the MSRP of $1,000, which $1,000 is already a lot of money for a GPU, but the 5080 also only has 16 gigabytes of VRAM, which is a 0% improvement over the 4080 and the 4080 Super. And to make matters worse, here comes the 5070 Ti with, you guessed it, 16 gigabytes of VRAM and almost an identical memory configuration. So now you have the 5070 Ti, which is marginally slower than the 5080 with virtually the same memory configuration at a cheaper price point. So now the 5080 looks even worse. So yeah, that's pretty much what we were dealing with. Obviously, they came out with a 5050, 5060 Ti, 5060, and I've talked about all that extensively this year in multiple videos, so you can go check one of those out for more detail. But yeah, from the Nvidia side of things, yeah, the year started off very rough with the 50 series cards. And on top of that, all of these cards are still using the 12 volt high power connector, which still had failures this year. We still saw failures of that connector on the 5090, and yes, even on the 5080, and yes, even with AMD. That's right, it's time to talk about AMD. So AMD released, the 9060 XT, the 9070, 9070 XT this year, and for the most part, they stuck with the tried and true 8-pin design that we all know and love. But there are some partner models with AMD that are using that 12 volt high power connector, and unfortunately, those partner models were met with the same fate as the Nvidia models with the melting adapter. So that is not something that we're really excited to see here. This is not a connector that we want to see remain on the market. There is something seriously wrong here. Now, the one piece of good news here is that the AMD launch of their new cards actually went fairly well, all things considering, because initially they delayed the announcement and they delayed the launch and they were made fun of. And of course, everybody expected them to talk about the cards at CES, just like Nvidia did. And when they did not do that, people, were memeing it and making fun of it per usual. And ultimately, AMD made their announcement another day, but in the meantime, they started stockpiling the GPUs at retailers, most notably Micro Center. And so on launch day, people were able to line up at Micro Center just like they did for the Nvidia cards, except this time, almost everybody in line got a card, and they got a card for MSRP because the 9070 and 9070 XT were available at launch for MSRP. Now, the criticism to this was that, number one, the 9070 and 9070 XT's MSRP was only $50 apart. Why would you just not get a 9070 XT? Obviously, it's going to be worth the extra $50 at that point. So I think AMD really messed up on that price point. But the other thing that people complained about was that, yeah, most notably, Micro Center got the majority of that inventory. And so people were complaining, well, hey, I don't live in the United States, or I do live in the United States, but I'm nowhere near a Micro Center. And so I know a few people who were actually able to get 9070 XTs on Newegg's website. So it wasn't only Micro Center, but I definitely understand the frustration there. And now for one final note on the GPU side of things is that, ironically and funny enough, it was actually Nvidia that had all the driver issues this generation. Usually people point that finger over towards AMD side of things, and I'm not saying that AMD didn't have any driver issues, but in my experience with my reviews of the cards, everything worked as expected pretty much day one. But this generation, a lot of people reported numerous issues with the 50 series cards, and so yeah, Nvidia had a lot of driver issues this generation, which was not something we expected going into the generation, but it just kind of added fuel to the fire. Nvidia also took away PhysX support, which really made a lot of people unhappy, and it seems so unnecessary because now you're buying this brand new, very expensive, all-powerful GPU, and it can't do something that your last generation could do. But as of late November, early December, Nvidia started rolling that back and started adding in PhysX support to games again on the 50 series cards. So who knows, this could have worked itself out, and it could have been a negative turn positive. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Now, moving away completely from GPUs, what else happened this year? There were numerous reports, and I mean quite a bit, of ASRock motherboards blowing up X3D CPUs. And I know there were certain tech YouTubers that looked into this and said they couldn't really reproduce the issue or, conclusively prove that it was happening or whatever. And I'm not quite sure exactly what the status is of that situation, but I know that there were a lot of people using an ASRock motherboard with an X3D CPU, and that CPU ultimately ended up dying. And another other news, Microsoft decided to raise the price of PC Game Pass, so the value proposition there just went down. And Nvidia has decided with GeForce Now to change around the way that model works. And so now you're paying for a limited amount of hours that you can play instead of it just being unlimited. So again, that value proposition also just went down. And the gaming industry at large saw a lot of different layoffs, unfortunately, as well as, price hikes across the board with the consoles. And along with these layoffs, here comes Microsoft saying, hey, now, we're using AI to write all of this code, or 30% of our code, or whatever the percentage point was. Basically Microsoft was bragging about how AI is writing so much of the code now over there at Microsoft, but that really just led to numerous new bugs being introduced into Windows 11 and causing tons of issues with Windows 11 and causing things to break. We already know that Windows 11 is not great. It's buggy, it's bloated to begin with, but now you're bragging about laying people off and replacing them with AI, and then the product that you're most known for, Windows, is now officially worse than ever. And then on top of that, Microsoft turned around and forced Copilot on top of us, along with their very controversial recall feature, that feature that basically takes a picture of everything you do on your PC at all times, keeps a record of it. Yeah, that feature. Yeah, so Microsoft forced that on everybody this year in Windows. And so yeah, now more and more people are starting to consider Linux more so than ever before. And that's why I just made a video about that. And that video is actually performing very well. I think people are very passionate about this topic. So yeah, hopefully Microsoft gets it together in 2026 and rolls some of this stuff back, or at least offers more of a gaming friendly, gaming optimized operating system, because Copilot and recall and all this other crap, yeah, that ain't it. And next up, we have to talk about the most recent events, which is everything to do with AI and RAM. We now have RAM shortages. So I bought a kit of RAM back in September for $200. That exact same kit today is going for about $450. No, the kit did not get better in any way. It's not faster. There isn't more capacity. It is officially the exact same kit, but now it is $450 as opposed to the original $200. Why is that? Well, because of AI. AI is kind of like the new tariffs that we experienced in the first half of the year. AI for you, AI for you, AI, everybody gets AI. AI is the new buzzword, and people won't stop talking about it. It is literally everywhere. Everything all the time has AI. Xbox is talking about AI, and then Nvidia is talking about AI, and AMD is talking about AI, and Intel is talking about AI. Microsoft, Windows, everything is talking about AI all the time. And I'm really AI'd out at this point. I miss when AI meant Allen Iverson. Does anybody remember that besides me? Anybody? I miss it when that is what people meant by AI. Anyway, look, AI obviously has a lot of potential, and I'm not completely against it by any means at all, but I am tired of hearing about it every day when I wake up 24/7, AI this, AI that. You don't have to put AI on every single product or service or feature you offer. It is definitely something that I think more and more people are starting to become tone deaf to, instead of it just being a fancy buzzword that's like, ooh, it piques my interest. What does this mean? It's like, AI, I'm not interested. That's really what it's starting to turn into. And I really hope that companies are starting to wake up to that, but probably not, right? Now, obviously the bigger elephant in the room is the fact that all this AI crap has led to more data centers being built, and those data centers need RAM. And so the companies behind building those data centers can obviously afford to pay for RAM at a much higher price point than what the consumer can. And so because of that, all the RAM is going to these data centers, which therefore leads us with a RAM shortage. So now the supply is lower, but the demand is higher than ever. So now your $200 RAM kit is now becoming $450. And that's actually not even the most expensive RAM kits available. There are RAM kits literally going for $1,000 right now, and there doesn't seem to be an end in sight, unfortunately. So now this definitely makes it harder to upgrade your PC or even build a new PC, or to even try and convince that friend of yours to finally switch over to PC gaming. RAM is in so many different kinds of electronics. So all around the board in the tech industry, people are being affected by the RAM shortage and the RAM prices. And the final nail in the coffin is the fact that Micron has officially decided to exit the market. That's right, they make storage devices along with RAM. You gotta love it. So they have completely exited the market. Not, hey, we're sorry, we're sold out. You know, we'll have some more RAM for you in a couple of weeks. None of that stuff. They're just like, hey, we're out. By the way, that reminds me, yeah, storage, the prices on storage also sucks really bad right now for basically all the same reasons that we just talked about. And that leads me to my final point, my closing thoughts. I'm going to land the plane here and be very, very honest, overly honest. And thankfully, most people didn't make it this far in the video because they never do. But if you made it this far in the video, first of all, wow, you're awesome. Leave a comment letting me know I'm still here or something like that. But here's the thing about it, guys. I don't like making this type of content. I don't want to make negative content. I don't want to make ranty content. I don't want to watch that type of content. If you think it's exhausting to watch that content and consume it, it's way more exhausting to produce it. If I'm looking tired right now, that's why. This video has a lot of negative stuff involved in it, and I almost stopped filming it multiple times. Also, I was never going to make this video. Instead, I was going to make a video talking about how tech YouTube is dying and incorporate a lot of these elements into it. But I thought it would be interesting and possibly even helpful to make a yearly recap video, because this time next year we can do 2026 and say, look how far we've come. And hopefully by then it'll be a lot better. It'll be a lot more positive. I'm going to be honest, looking at the camera right now, I don't see how it's going to be better. I don't see how it's going to be more positive, but I'm hopeful that somehow things will just work out. But it will be interesting to get to the end of 2026 and do a compare and contrast and say, wow, this is where we were and this is where we are, and here's everything that's changed. And yeah, unfortunately, this year was fairly negative in terms of things happening in the tech space, the hardware space, the gaming space, PC gaming in general. And it's important to talk about those things, right? But it wasn't all bad all the time. I mean, I know me personally, I had quite a few achievements this year. I mean, first of all, I have more subs and views than ever before. I'll be honest, I went into the year expecting more than this and planning for more and stuff, but I dropped the ball along the way. That's on me. I should have uploaded more than I did. But I also kind of expected some of the GPU reviews I did to go further than they did. But they didn't, and it's because of all the reasons explained in this video. And so with that being said, though, I'm still further along the road than I've ever been before, and that's all thanks to you and your support, your viewership, and all of your comments, your likes, and when you subscribe or share, all that stuff matters. So seriously, thank you so much for how far we've come. And I recently completed an app I've been working on for a while. I'm going to be launching that very soon. And I'm going to open up channel memberships here. And when you're a channel member, you'll get access to the app. My Patreon members already have access to it. And a massive shout out to all of the Patreon members. My goodness, I've neglected to mention them for a while now. You guys are awesome. You're incredible. So thank you for your support. Seriously, like, I personally and individually have a lot to be grateful for, thankful for, and a lot that I can be positive about. So I'm very, very grateful. I just wanted to make this video because again, it's important to talk about these things, and I do want to be pro-consumer, and I do want to remember, hey, it's like we're a community. It may not feel that way sometimes, but we are a community, and it is important that we stick together, support each other, and help each other, you know, get through this, because it is pretty rough out there. And I'm hoping for a better 2026, and my goodness, I probably should close this another way, but I'm exhausted. It is officially 1:52 a.m. on New Year's Eve. I still got to get some sleep, wake up, finish this edit, get it produced, and go shoot off some fireworks. So let me get out of here. I look forward to talking to you in the comments below. Thank you so much for a great 2025 here on the channel. I really appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to rocking with you in 2026. That's all I got. Until next time, ASRock out.